yeah, thank you.
Greetings, everyone, and thanks for being here. It's very important to a lot of us. Again, I want to welcome you all to the press conference. It was sponsored by Witness Innocence, the only national organization of death row survivors, both men and women who had been sentenced to death in this country, wrongfully so, later on thankfully released. And now we share our stories, our experience, in hopes that this doesn't happen ever again. Unfortunately, we're right there facing the same horrors of execution, possibly a wrongful conviction, and again, the fact that those pressing those charges do not want to act on evidence, potential evidence to show another exoneration. Why me? Why did I drive 200 miles today to come here and speak? Because I walked in Tony Carruthers' shoes. I lived on death row for 3 years in Arizona, 1992, when I was convicted and sentenced to death for murder of a local barmaid. The main evidence was a bite mark. I was called a snaggletooth killer. Very impressive man, speaking of how my teeth matched marks on the body. Yet fingerprints, footprints, hair samples did not match me. After 3 years on that death row, I got a new trial because my representing my lawyer never done a capital murder case, and while he made some mistakes, he actually did some things right. My conviction was overturned. And in comparison, having just a 3.5-day trial, being sitting on death row in just 11 months, my second trial lasted over 7 weeks. Over 500 exhibits were introduced. 3 bite mark experts testified for the defense. Even DNA came out. The saliva from the bite mark was not my DNA. Again, I was convicted. The prosecution, this was in 1996 when the OJ trial was going. The prosecution told that jury to disregard the DNA, ignore the DNA. It's too complicated to understand, but the bite mark is understandable. We know it was him. Again, I was found guilty. Only this time the judge said he had lingering residual doubt of my guilt, sentenced me to life. Whoopee. 25 to life for a murder and added on 21 more for kidnapping. I was 35 years old when this happens. You go ahead and add 46 to that. It was a death sentence. I was going to live to be 81 years old in our prison systems, not with the violence, not with the gangs, not with the health issues. But fortunately and thankfully, and I'll have to say I do support the police, even though they were the worst people in my case, the biggest liars in that courtroom. But they did keep the clothing from the victim. That she had been stabbed through that clothing. They had kept the clothing, stabbed with a big butcher knife, so stabbed so forcibly that it bent that blade. And some of my experts, people looked at that and said the perpetrator probably cut himself. And thankfully, Arizona passed a new law in 2001 allowing for post-conviction DNA testing. And under that new law, we petitioned the courts to test the underwear, the pants that she was wearing. And lo and behold, there was blood on there. There was blood on her underwear. And when it was put in the National Data Bank, by that time in 2001, it came back with a match to a man that lived right down the road, who had priors for assaulting children and women. I was subsequently released after 10 years, 3 months, and 8 days to start my life all over again at the age of 45. That man took a plea bargain and served a life sentence. But when I was released that day, I was the 100th person in America. 100 mistakes had been made at that time in 2002, sentenced people to death for something they didn't do. I was released, and during that press conference right outside the gate of that prison, when I was asked, what was it like being in prison, what are you going to do? And I answered questions, how I slept with the Bible under my pillow, read it front to back 3.5 times, talked about the support of my family, my loved ones back in Pennsylvania. And one of the reporters in the back raised his hand. He said, well, Mr. Krone, and that's how he talked, Mr. Krone, given your faith in God, how do you justify him leaving you in prison for 10 years? What? How do I justify God leaving me in prison for 10 years? How would you answer a deep, soul-searching question like that? My mind was blank. I froze. The cameras, the microphones were leaning forward, and then something shot in. And I said, well, maybe it's not about those 10 years I spent in prison. Maybe it's about what I have to do the next 10 years. I've been fortunate to travel and speak. I have a sister, Helen Prejean, started a group called Witness Innocence. I was asked to join that. Again, as I explained, the only national organization of death row survivors. Been able to share my story around this country, also in Europe. I spoke at both the United Nations. I spoke to down in D.C. There must have been a reason I was put on death row. Because I did 6 years active duty in the U.S. Air Force, honorable discharge. 7 years as a letter carrier at the time of my arrest. I had no record, no background to put me on death row. They didn't want to follow that evidence. But nevertheless, thankfully for that DNA testing that was done, to the objection of the prosecutor put me on death row. That man said it was a wild goose chase, a fishing expedition. Don't grant that motion, Your Honor. Thankfully, I was granted DNA, and I'm here to talk about it today. And I want to thank you all again for being here. I want to let you know that the reason really is that Tony Carruthers is facing an execution on the 21st. A man who, again, circumstantial evidence. A man, again, who apparently there is DNA evidence that needs to be tested. That's been so far blocked. So we're here to call on our governor, right here in the state that I've lived in now for almost 14 years now. Right here in this state, my state now, where I live, asking the governor to please commute, if you're not going to commute a sentence, at least grant a stay, excuse me, and order that DNA testing done. And if the Lord willing, one day I'll shake Tony Carruthers' hands and welcome him to witness innocence, just like our other members. Innocent people do not deserve in our prisons, and we certainly should be executed. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Sabrina Butler-Smith. I'm the first woman to be exonerated from death row in the United States. I'm also here too, standing with TADP for Tony Carruthers. I think that the DNA testing needs to be tested, and that's only right. If a person is claiming that they're innocent, I think that you should give them the option to do so. I was only 17 when I was sentenced to death row for a murder that never occurred. My son stopped breathing and I tried to do CPR and I didn't know how. But that shouldn't have been a sentence of death, but it was given to me out of the state of Mississippi. I served 6 years and a half, almost 7 years, 2 years, 9 months on death row for a crime I never committed. And to be here back in this place, to know that there's another individual that's fighting for his life and they're saying, hey, I didn't do this. Give me the option to prove myself. I'm asking the governor to just please look at this. Give him a chance to prove. That's only fair. Why would you let somebody that potentially could have committed the crime walk free when you got a person that's incarcerated that didn't do it? What does that say? What does that tell us? We may not have the right person. So I just think that we as a people should, the rush to judgment and the death penalty, it makes no sense to me. Why is it the way it is? I could have been dead today if it hadn't have been for the help that I received. Attorneys came in, they saw my case, they fought for my life. They fought for Ray's life. They fought for his life. Why should we have to do that? That makes no sense. We should stand together now, here and now, to solve this problem, to fix what is wrong with our system.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Gichner, and I am the Executive Director of the Tennessee Innocence Project. And let me start by saying that I'm just honored to be with my friends here today. So the Tennessee Innocence Project is a statewide nonprofit law firm, and we fight to bring innocent people home from prison. And there are three things that I want to talk to you about today with my time. Number one, how many people are wrongfully convicted? How many innocent people do we send to prison? Number two, why is DNA so important when we're talking about innocence? And number three, why does this especially matter when we're talking about the death penalty? So let's start with wrongful convictions. Let's talk about how many innocent people go to prison. And where we always need to start that conversation is a recognition that our criminal justice system is run by human beings. And human beings are not perfect. We make mistakes. We get things wrong. We often hear about the cases where there are bad actors, somebody who lies, cheats, steals, withholding evidence. Put all of that aside. Just think about the fact that we are imperfect, and any system that is run by human beings, no matter what it is going to have an error rate. And we know that for a fact in Tennessee because we've seen it firsthand. In the last 5 years in Tennessee, 10 innocent people have been exonerated who served more than 300 years in prison for crimes they didn't commit. And that doesn't even count the 3 folks that I'm here with today. We also know that nationally over 3,800 people have been sent to prison for crimes they didn't commit, who collectively served more than 35,000 years in prison. Innocent people, more than 35,000 years in prison. And of those people, more than 200 of them have come off death row. More than 200 innocent people were sentenced to death and then proven to be innocent. So why does DNA matter? Well, DNA matters because we know that of all of these people who have been wrongfully convicted, there have been more than 600 people that have been exonerated due to DNA, and 38 people have come off death row because DNA has proven that they were innocent. That's a lot of people. That's too many lives at stake to get this wrong. And the reason that this has happened, the reason these people have come off death row is because DNA is the gold standard of forensic science. You can ask scientists that. You can ask courts that. You can ask our Tennessee Supreme Court that. They've said it. And this is the thing about DNA. It's science. It doesn't take sides. It's not pro-prosecution. It's not pro-defense. Law enforcement uses DNA all the time to solve cold cases. And at the same time, we can use DNA to vindicate innocent people by testing evidence to prove that they didn't commit the crime. And this is what I want everybody to know about DNA. DNA is accurate and DNA is efficient. We do DNA testing every day across the country in labs. We're really good at it. And just like any other science, we get better at it all the time. And we have gotten so much better at it since this case began all those years ago. So DNA is not some outside the box, Hail Mary, conspiracy, last minute approach. DNA is the proper standard of care that we should exercise in every criminal prosecution where lives are at stake. And it is the least we should do. It is the minimum that we should do. When there is evidence that can be tested for DNA to prove somebody's innocence, we should do it every single time. And this gets us to the really big question. What's at stake and why should we always err on the side of testing? And what's at stake is everything. You know, my office is in the business of helping innocent people go home. And every time an innocent person is convicted of a crime they didn't commit, it's tragic. And we sometimes fight for years and decades to get that truth out. And fortunately, sometimes that truth does get out and people do go home and they're reunited with their families. That's not the case when we execute innocent people. When we execute innocent people, there is no do-over. There is no fix. There is no coming back 5, 10, 20, 30 years later and trying to get it right. When we execute an innocent person, that's the end. And look, my job here today is not to convince anybody about what their opinions on how we should sentence people in this country are. That's a different conversation for a different day. What I'm here to tell you is that innocent people are convicted in this country all the time. Innocent people are sentenced to death in this country far more often than it should take place. And if there is an opportunity to test evidence that is both reliable and efficient to do, there is no good reason not to do it. In fact, I would ask the question, why would we not do it? And I can't think of any compelling answer why we wouldn't do that. When what's at stake is this final, this extreme, and it's somebody's life, we should always err on the side of testing, which is why in this case, my ask I don't think is a big ask, I don't think is a controversial ask. There is evidence that we know exists that DNA testing can be done on that could prove innocence. We should do that in this case. We should do that in every case. It's the least we can do. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm gonna first reiterate what's already been said, and that is that long as we use the death penalty, innocent people gonna certainly be executed. That's just the bottom line. I mean, it ain't, just like you said, human beings is the ones doing it, and we flawed. And so, long as we using the death penalty, innocent people certainly gonna be killed. My name is Ndume Olatushani. I was falsely accused and sentenced to murder out of Memphis, Tennessee, a place I had never been to. I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. I had never been here in the state of Tennessee until I was brought here chained and shackled and put on trial for a crime that happened in Memphis, Tennessee. I ultimately spent 28 years in prison. 20 of them was on death row. And I don't know what you guys know about Memphis, Tennessee, but I'm sure you know. If you don't, even back when I went to trial in 1985, Memphis, Tennessee was a majority black city. I was tried by an all-white jury, a young black male being accused of killing a white prominent person. And in my case, the people knew I was innocent because all the evidence that they presented against me, they fabricated. And so they was not interested in solving my case. Only thing that they was interested in was closing it. And but for a lot of good people, like they said, I certainly wouldn't be standing here. I'm sure I would have been executed for something I hadn't did, and people would be saying I got exactly what I deserved. And the reality is that, like I said, I had never been here until the people actually brought me here and put me on trial for it. And during my trial, in the middle of my trial, the state came to me and offered me a 25-year sentence. I refused to take it. I refused to take it because I refused to plead guilty to something I had not, a crime that I hadn't committed. And so, and I think that's kind of speaks in volumes about here I am, that you saying that should be sentenced to death, but in the middle of my trial, when they felt like things was falling apart, they was willing to offer me a 25-year sentence. I've been knowing Tony since the time that I met Tony in the county jail when I was down there. I first met Tony, and he's certainly a good friend of mine. I think that, like they said, I mean, if you got DNA, there's no reason for a person to be subject to the death penalty or even sitting in prison for something that they didn't do when you got evidence, a possible evidence to show that they was not the person that committed the crime. And I think it would be a travesty that if people in this state, the governor, whoever got the power to actually do something about it, don't, take the opportunity to make sure that you ain't killing the wrong person. Like he said, if you got DNA that's possibly gonna show that the person didn't do it, then I don't see no reason, like they said, that we shouldn't be doing. Unfortunately for me, I didn't have DNA in my case. And it took me the time that it took me, like I said, 28 years before I was finally freed. And it shouldn't take nobody that long. I mean, just like he said, in his case, the people knew they had DNA, and the prosecutor stood there and told them told the jury that, disregard that. It was a case right here in this state, Paul House. They did the same thing too. Yeah. And so, I don't think that we should be in the business executing people first off, but certainly not testing every opportunity to find out whether or not you're killing the wrong person. Yeah. And so, like the rest of them, I'm here because my friend is out there, and not only him, but it's several people out there this didn't happen to. Some of them is home just like me, and that's never talked about. It's never talked about the number of people that then walked off the death row in their state for things that they ain't did. And here's a case I think that we certainly should be trying to make sure that this person is not one of them people that get executed for something he ain't do. Yeah, thanks.
And one other thing to think about too is we all had parents, we all had family, we all had friends. It's not just that person on death row, that's not just that person that's facing death, but there's other people that are dying in a way along with them, losing their heart, their love, and what can they do to help and assist them? It's so big and so powerful. Our stories are long and yours were hard, but this was a press conference and that's supposed to be kind of short. And so we said what we could say. We are, again, encouraging the governor to please stay the execution. Please allow for that DNA testing. I know as the media is here, I would hope and believe that you do have questions, and this is an opportunity now. Please ask any questions. We'll take the time to answer them if there are some. Again, thank you for being here and for your concern and consideration in this matter. It is very, very important to us. Oh, come on now.
Where do you go from here? Just waiting on the governor?
Yeah, again, there's a lot of voices being raised. I would love to ask all the constituents out there. Again, the death penalty is one of the things that people don't want to talk about. I myself supported death penalty. Now I was younger then. It didn't matter to me. It wasn't going to affect my family. I didn't have people in prison. I thought what our government tells us is for the worst of the worst. They only use it sparingly, and they get it right. Well, all three of them are wrong. I found that out the hard way. And again, why was I picked to go to death row? Why was I picked to be number 100? Why did all that happen to me and my family? I don't know, but I have shared my story now all around, and it does matter. We've been fortunate enough witnesses that have testified in all the states that have abolished the death penalty. We've talked with governors, legislatures. It did make a difference. Their minds were changed. And again, I'll tell you the truth. I was on death row. They executed half a dozen people in those 3 years that I was there in Arizona. And I would tell you, weren't none of them kicking and screaming, oh no, don't kill me, let me live, please. They weren't begging to live, they wanted to die. Kill me, do me a favor. Because we all suffer, we all have pains, we all have our traumas, things we go through in life. But they're sitting on death row knowing they're gonna execute you is kill me, get me out of this. Kill me, take me away from this horror. Kill me, get this over with. Sorry, death penalty isn't a deterrent, it isn't the things that the people that push for the death penalty say it is. It doesn't, the states with the death penalty aren't the lowest murder rates. And again, most all for me, it's for my family when I always talk about the people that stood by and supported us, the people that didn't even know us at one point, didn't even know us, that came forward to help us. Well, I guess that's part of now, again, as like I said, what about what I'm gonna do the next 10 years. It's been 20, actually yesterday was 24 years since the judge actually banged the gavel and said, Mr. Krone, you're free to go. You're free to go. Again, if there's any more questions, we certainly like to answer them. There's a large amount of information here of what life experience was, and most of all, the appreciation for DNA. And the courts, in order to be fair, has to test all the evidence. You need to go down all the paths of the possibilities, not just a few, to get that conviction. And again, I do support the justice system, I do support police, I do support prosecutors, but none of us should support a system where the bad ones still get away with it. The ones that cover up stuff, hide stuff, lie about stuff. We can fix that. And just as humans make mistakes, humans can also do better. Anybody else got something to say?
I want to say, you asked where we go from here. My answer to that would be to continue to do what we're doing, because a closed mouth never gets fed. So as long as we are alive, we're going to continue to stand against this. Tony Carruthers' case needs to be looked at, and we can't do that with a closed mouth. So we're here for that.
Well said, well said.
I want to say one other thing too, in terms of just picking up on what he said. Picking up on,
Can you fix that, Rachel, please?
picking up,
Let Rachel fix that, sorry. Thank you.
I just want to pick up on what he said about asking questions. Even though there's no questions for us, I would ask that y'all pose this question. Why is it that we live in a society that's willing to trust the government to do everything wrong? I'm talking about you can't get nothing right, but there's one thing that once you pull the switch, you can't reverse it. They say we can't educate our kids, we can't give them health care, you can't even get a good dog catcher. But the one thing that you say that you trust them to do, once they do it, they can't reverse it. And like he said, you gonna get it wrong. You have got it wrong. It's been proven that it's wrong. People have been innocently executed in this country.
Is there any more questions?
I know the three of you have some similarities in your stories, but you also have very different stories. What would you want people at home or watching this today, what's the most important thing the three of you think could be your message? If it was something, I know it's not simple, but if there's something, one thing that's most important.
Sabrina, yeah.
I would think that, oh, okay. Sorry. I would think the most important thing is that when you have people that are incarcerated and they're saying, look, I didn't commit this crime, give them the opportunity to prove their innocence. Don't take that away. Because if you have somebody out there that actually committed the crime, what does that say about us as a community as a whole? You got the murderer walking around and you got this innocent person telling you they didn't commit that crime. So I think that we as a people should first stand for what is right. Stop doing all this under table shady stuff that we're doing, and let's get this right. Take the death penalty off the table so that won't be an issue, and do the right thing. That's what I would have to say.
Yeah, I would simply just say that, that as long as we using the death penalty, innocent people gonna be killed. I'm saying that if you believe in life, then you should be standing up. Whoever's listening or seeing this, y'all should be standing up, because if you don't, innocent people gonna die. That's just the bottom line. I mean, that's just the bottom line. So that's what I would ask people to do.
I think a big part of it is getting in our life that we see wrongs, we see things we know that's not right. Some might just be a small thing, it might be a neighbor's dog barking or something, maybe it might be potholes in the streets, but whatever it is, it's something that gets you motivated. Be strong enough to stand up against that. Take on the big dogs. I tell you, we don't take our car to the garage and say what's right with our car. It's what's wrong with our car that needs fixed. If you see something that's wrong, whatever it is, stand up for it, believing there's other voices out there that want to be raised and shared with you. And that's how we've got change. That's how things get better. And we all can do that. We all can be part of that. This is one of the things that we've chosen to be, has affected us personally, affected our families personally. But you can make a difference in whatever it is that you stand up for and believe in it and fight for it.
Sir, my question is for you. You said that you're friends with Tony. Have you had a chance to speak with him recently?
I have spoken with him recently.
Can you kind of just tell us about how he's doing and his...
I don't know that I want to get into the conversation that I had with him, but I mean, he's facing imminent. I mean, the 21st is like tomorrow for somebody sitting where he's sitting, and so I will tell you this here, that him and his family are very stressed and worried about what's actually happening. I will tell you that. Yes, I have spoken with him recently.
I guess it's lunchtime.
Can we,
Yes, sir.
can we get a spelling for everyone's name that's so,
Sure.
and
It's
and a
on,
position, is it on
it's
there?
on the back of the press release, right
Okay.
over here, yeah.
Again, thank you all for being here. As we said, this is important to us. This is stuff that we travel to do. It's what's in our heart. It's what, in a way, God put us in a position to share and to make changes. And we all can. And again, thank you. Your voice, the opportunity for y'all to show this and share this with your viewers is very important to us and very important. The ability to change something and let the governor hear our requests, our needs, and recognize what is right, what is fair, and what does make it a justice system.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.